Boom. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Happy Thursday to you all, and welcome to another live beer review. Today, we're going to be taking a look at a pretty special one to me from Anchorage Brewing Company this afternoon. You guys know by now, I am a huge fan of beers from Anchorage Brewing Company. They're doing some of the best IPAs, stouts, barley wines, you name it, that I've had on this planet. And today, we got one that seems simple, but there's one ingredient in this beer that kind of has been I've been seeking to try to find a beer with this kind of ingredient in there just because there's something really special about it. So today we got the Beached Hazy IPA from Anchorage Brewing Company, and look at that can art. Holy crap. I don't know if this doesn't show in the picture, but it almost like morphs into like an eye of like a crow or a raven, which I think is fucking badass. But yeah, it's a 6.4% double dry hopped IPA with Citra hops, which of course you guys know by now is probably my favorite hops of all time. And they use a specific ingredient in this one that definitely catches my attention, this is a single hopped IPA, and they use Phantasm powder in this beer. So I'll get into what Phantasm powder is pretty soon, but I've been wanting to try a beer with this stuff in it for a while now, just because I've heard so much about it and what it does to beer. So I'm really, really curious to see what this thing does. And I'm kind of skeptical in opening this can, because apparently when I was in here earlier, my mom dropped this it was in the fridge. It was going to the fridge, and she dropped the can. So I don't want this thing to explode on me. So I'm hoping that I don't have any casualties when it comes to me cracking this can open. But of course, if it's a single Citra hopped IPA, I'm expecting really, really strong flavors of citrus. Of course, grapefruit notes are definitely going to come through pretty predominantly. And I want this to be just a really, really nice, hazy, juicy IPA. And hopefully, Anchorage never lets me down when it comes to what I'm kind of expecting in a beer. So I'll be very surprised if I'm let down with this one. So let's crack this thing open and see what we get on the nose with it. Okay. No casualties on the opening, which is good. So let's take and see what this guy's like on the nose. Yep, exactly what I was expecting. Great amounts of citrus coming through. Definitely getting that, definitely grapefruit is definitely more predominant when it comes to the citrus you're going to get on this. Sometimes you get a little bit of lemon, you get a little bit of orange, but grapefruit is the very, very predominant note you get on the nose, and most likely a lot of the times it's going to be one of the predominant fruity flavors. I know, Ian. It's so I keep my beers in my fridge upstairs whenever I'm getting ready to review it, and then I keep the rest of my beers downstairs in the basement in the fridge. So I usually bring up a beer, put it in the fridge upstairs while my mom was going through the fridge a little bit. And let me tell a little bit of story time here, because this past week has been kind of crazy. So Monday, I worked and everything, and then came home from work, and we were getting some bad weather. But bad weather was not kind of what I was expecting to what we got hit with. So we almost got hit with a freaking tornado that came through probably 8 minutes away from where I live. So we had 70-mile-per-hour plus winds, hit almost every tree in my neighborhood. Had almost every house in my neighborhood that had trees in it had some part of the tree come down and all that kind of craziness. And we were without power for 17 plus hours, from 7:30 p.m. on Monday to 1:15 in the afternoon on Tuesday. And it was 17 hours of hell. It was in the 90s. It was muggy, it was humid, and it was just awful. So it sucks to have, I don't know what we would do nowadays without power, but so we had a bunch of stuff in our fridge that, of course, when it comes to lunch meat and all that stuff in fridges and all that stuff, I think the shelf life with not being cold or when your power goes out is about 4 hours. So we had to kind of get rid of some stuff in the fridge that were in there a little bit too long. We didn't want to kind of risk of something going bad on us and then us trying to eat it. But so we went to the grocery store today. We kind of stocked up on some stuff that we had to throw out. And when my mom was putting stuff away, she accidentally knocked this beer out of the fridge. I don't know how she did it, but she did it. But luckily, it didn't explode on me. But I am super excited to try this one out. So let's get this thing poured. I'm going to be drinking out of my Heart of the North glass this afternoon. Let's pour it and see what this thing's all about. Oh yeah, nice and hazy. Definitely have that very, very bright, almost yellowish orange color to it. A little bit of head, but not too much. But yeah, this looks like an absolutely delicious hazy IPA, if I say so myself. Look at that. Nice and hazy. Almost has that, under the camera, it has almost orangish kind of yellow to it, but definitely a little bit of effervescence going. Yeah, this smells absolutely delicious. Still getting a lot of the grapefruit on the nose. But with this Phantasm powder, I want to see what it does with this, like the overall beer drinking experience. Because I'll let you guys know about Phantasm powder after I take this first sip. So let's give this guy a try. So, cheers, everybody. Was it Thursday? Yeah, happy Thursday. Whoa. Yep, this is crazy juicy, crazy citrusy. Has a decent amount of sweetness coming through, but like a citrusy sweetness. Yeah, and it was awful. I think there were multiple times where I actually had to charge my phone and get some air conditioning. I had to go sit out in my car for a couple hours and just kind of manage that way. But this beer is absolutely fantastic. Loads of just very bright, juicy, citrusy flavors. And the reason why it's probably this juicy and this kind of bright in flavor is because what Phantasm powder is, it's a really, really cool ingredient that just started being used in beers within the past couple of years or so. It's actually a powder derived from grapes out of New Zealand, to where brewers are adding Phantasm powder into beer to help enhance juiciness. That's what pretty much the main reason why you're adding Phantasm powder into a beer for. It's I don't know how they're turning these grapes into like powdered form or anything like that, but it's a powder that's derived from a specific grape in New Zealand that is usually used for making like wine and all that stuff, but it's helping make a bunch of IPAs and a very, very juicy, and it's a really, really cool ingredient that brewers are starting to use now. And I realized I had a couple of beers down in the storage spot for upcoming review in the future that had Phantasm powder in it. So I'm very, very excited to kind of get my hands on this stuff and have it in my rotation. And this stuff is absolutely fantastic. Like I said, loads of citrus on the front end. Very, very, very juicy, and just overall really, really delicious. This is like perfect for a nice kind of summer day. It's not really oily in mouthfeel. It's not really like light as a cloud kind of mouthfeel. It definitely is that more of a juicier kind of mouthfeel that I can really explain with this one. It's absolutely delicious. It's juicy. There's a little bit of like bubbly effervescence to it from the carbonation, and overall this is really, really nice. Really nice. It's like a perfect kind of beer for like if I was out mowing the lawn or doing some outside work. It's super refreshing. This to me is like the perfect kind of thirst quenching kind of beer, and Anchorage never disappoints when it comes to what I'm looking for in a nice IPA or any kind of beer. So if you guys have never had anything from Anchorage Brewing Company yet, I highly, highly recommend it, just because they're doing some really, really cool stuff over there, and it's a great team, great brewery, great art in their cans. It's overall really, really just overall fantastic brewery. So let's look here on Untapped and see if we can find some similar beers to this one, because of course if you can't get your hands on anything from Anchorage Brewing Company, you most likely will not be able to get your hands on this Beach Take New England Hazy IPA. So let's see what Untapped shows for similar beers, and the first four I'm not going to really go off of because they looks like they're overseas or in a different country than the US, but there's one here that looks interesting. It's called the Hetchy Haze Citra Mosaic and Centennial to 6% from Around the Horn Brewing Company, which is located in Groveland, California. So Citra Mosaic and Centennial, yeah, I think this may be, there definitely will be similar flavors to this one. Of course, I don't know if it's going to be as juicy, but from what you're going to be getting just by the flavors of the hops and everything, this is going to be pretty damn close. You're going to get the citrus coming through from the Citra. You're going to get that mix of like tropical fruit and pine from the Mosaic, and the Centennial is going to give a little bit of like a grassy almost kind of note in there, and it's going to be, I think this one's going to be pretty damn good. Plus, it looks like there's only 12 ratings on this one and has a 4.73 rating on Untapped, just for a 6% IPA, which I think is pretty damn good, even though there's not that many check-ins. But with this one, yeah, I would probably suggest that one going off the similar beers list. Of course, other ones that I can possibly think of that have like a really, really nice juiciness to it, of course, I would probably put Ghost in the Machine on here. As just, it's not as boozy as Ghost in the Machine just because it's lower ABV, but that kind of juicy, almost citrusy hop flavor that you get from Ghost in the Machine is going to be very, very close to this. And even though that one's definitely going to have more of a creamier kind of mouthfeel, where this one's definitely going to be more bubbly and effervescent, so just keep that in mind. But flavor, I think, could be pretty, pretty close when it comes to this one. It might actually be This one might actually be a little bit brighter than when it comes to how Ghost of the Machine would be. But what do you got here, Face Me? What it contributes to beer is a massive charge of thiols, compounds that drive intense tropical fruit flavors and aroma. Okay. Yeah, that's... Yeah, Phantasm powder is it's definitely a new ingredient that's been experimented with, but when it comes to bringing in juiciness and bringing in fruit flavor, I think it's the perfect ingredient to try to maximize those flavors that those hops give out. So let's look here and see what the description of this one says on Untappd, because on the can it's pretty simple. It's pretty much the same thing on Untappd too. It's an IPA, double dry hopped, which means they added hops during the dry hopping process, which is usually when it's in the bright tank. You're just using that to add flavor. You're not in there to add bitterness. So they double dry hopped it. So they're the first dry hop process, and then after the first dry hop process, they doubled the amount of hops they put from the first time and made those kind of hoppy flavors come through, especially with the Citra. Just come through really, really bright and citrusy, which is, I think Citra hops is a really, really nice kind of dry hopping hops to use, just because it doesn't bring too much bitterness if you decide to use it in the boil. But if you want to bring in some nice kind of grapefruity citrusiness, the Citra hops is always a really, really fantastic one to have. And plus the Phantasm powder. I'm really curious with the Phantasm powder if you use it during the boil or if it's something you add during like when it's in the bright tank or something like that. I don't know. I'm thinking it may be during the boil. Who knows? I'm really, really curious on the stage of the brewing process to where you add the Phantasm powder in. But let's look over here. Like I said before, it's a 6.4% ABV, which I would definitely consider this beer in the realm of being sessionable for sure. And it's the perfect sessionable IPA for me. I don't know, just all the flavors are exactly what I want for a nice, bright, citrusy, almost really refreshing double dry hopped IPA. And it doesn't show an IBU rating on here, and with over 1,187 ratings, this one has an average rating of 4.03 out of 5, which is pretty damn good. Really, really good. So let's look here on my friends list and see if there's anybody on my friends list who check this one in. Of course, I think we got a few, because whenever I order beer off Tavour, I'm usually getting two just because I'm getting one for me and then I'm getting one for my father. So my father checked this one in, and he gave this 4 out of 5, saying anything Anchorage is good, which I could definitely agree. I don't think I've ever had a beer from Anchorage Brewing Company that I've been disappointed in. That's kind of the standard that they're kind of giving. And then we got one more check-in from a friend of mine. He checked this one in Hartford, Wisconsin. He's actually an Untappd moderator, and he gave it a 3.75 and said cheers. So he didn't really give that much of a description of his check-in, but he gave it a 3.75, which is still overall a pretty good check rating. But let's look at the global rating. Let's see what other people had to say about this one. So let's see. This person gave it a 4 out of 5. We got a 3.5 out of 5 purchased from Tavour. We got another 4. Let's see, a 4.25, another 4.25, another 3.5, another 4.25, a 4. Let's see, we got a 4.25 saying zesty tangerine, Citra, dry hop, fresh and crisp. Yeah, I'm not really saying I would be getting a tangerine. To me, it's more of a grapefruit. But yeah, crisp, refreshing, and just overall a really, really fantastic double IPA. Well, double dry hopped IPA. It's not a double IPA, but let's do like 3 more. Let's see what people have to say. We got another 3.75. We got another 3.5, and the final one we're going to look at here is another 4.25. So not a lot of people giving description on this one. Hold on, let's. There's one here that I kind of want to read off here because it's actually a really nice one. So this person checked it in, gave it a 4 out of 5, and what he said is it hits all the points of a traditional IPA. Very pronounced hop flavors, citrusy and bitter, but nothing that's overwhelming. Well balanced and an easy drinker. Well worth it if you get the chance. Yeah. Rick W. on Untappd just kind of hit the nail on the head with this one. It's not overly bitter. It's not overly citrusy. It's very, very well balanced. It hits right on the head of being like a nice traditional IPA, and overall they just think Anchorage did a fantastic job with this one, just making a really nice sessionable IPA. Okay, so it's on the cold side, so that's most likely, I'm thinking they added that during if it's in the bright tank then. So a lot of the times you don't usually add that stuff when it comes to Like if you're making a beer and adding puree, you're most likely adding it during while it's in the carb process, when it means the bright tank, which is, it helps because most of the yeast is already out of there. You're not going to have the yeast kind of going through. I think breweries are still kind of experimental phase with this ingredient. Yeah, a lot of breweries are doing a lot of stuff, because they use it in the mash, because there's so many things you can do within the mash process and then the boil process. So it's still so experimental because it's still so new. So everybody's adding it in different stages just to see what it does. I feel like, I don't know, I'm really, really curious to see what stage Anchorage did the Phantasm powder on this one. But I think that it's an absolutely fantastic beer. But let's look here. And yeah, that's Untapped had some pretty good check-ins on here. So with all that being said, let's start going through our end over here and see what we're going to be doing for ratings on this guy. So I think I poured the rest of it in there. Yep. And the first thing we like to look at here is can art, which Anchorage Brewing Company never really disappoints when it comes to can art for me. There's only a couple gripes that I get about some of their can art. They kind of do it to where the picture looks best when you like peel the label off the can, and because it's almost sideways to where you can't really see the picture well. But they have it vertical on like a horizontal picture. But this one, they have it perfectly horizontal, so you got like the skeleton wearing like a jacket and all that stuff, and it says, a little quote that says, seams were both stuck, and then it kind of like almost makes it seem like wind, and then it morphs into like almost an eye of like a raven or a crow, which I think the detail in this can art is absolutely outstanding. If you want to see more art like this, the artist that did this can art, his name is Massive Face. So if you maybe find him on social media, you'll be able to follow some of his other art. And then on the top right here, it says "Speak for yourself." So a lot of times, Anchorage seems like they're telling a story on their can art, which is really, really cool. And the detail they put into a lot of their can art is just outstanding. You normally get the name right there, of course, Anchorage Brewing Company. You get the description, a little bit of the beer right there. But then they take up almost all of the real estate on the can art itself to market this beer. And I think this one is an absolutely fantastic example of how well Anchorage markets their beer, just because they took up every single little space of it. It almost seems like it's telling a story, so you kind of want to know more. You see it, and then you want to see what else is on there, just because normally Anchorage's can art is very, very detailed. So overall, yeah, this one is absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to give this one a very, very solid, I don't know if I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5, but I'm just going to get a very, very easy 4.75 out of 5 for can art for me. Absolutely fantastic. This is definitely one that's going to be peeled off and saved, just because I usually save a lot of the stuff from Anchorage just because their can arts are really, really cool. But let's see here. If I got this beer in a flight over at Anchorage Brewing Company, would I get another one? To be honest, absolutely. Absolutely. This is one that I'd want to keep a couple 4-packs around just for, especially this would be a perfect like lawn beer to where it's like you're doing yard work or anything like that. This beer would be perfect for like yard work style of beer. I don't know, just the bright citrusy flavors, the really, really refreshing flavors you get out of it. To be honest, there's really not many gripes I have about this one. It's juicy, it's citrusy, it hits every mark. Maybe I would have liked to see a little bit more booziness to it. Maybe have it a little bit of a higher percentage, but that's not something that I'm going to gripe on. That means I can drink more of them and still be perfectly fine. So I'm not going to really complain about the ABV and the lack of booziness. But so with that being said, I think my final rating on this guy, I'm going to give it an 8.75 out of 10. Really, really delicious. If you can get your hands on this beached double dry hopped IPA from Anchorage Brewing Company, don't hesitate. Just get your hands on it. If you're a fan of a nice, juicy, bright, citrusy IPA, this is definitely going to be something that's going to be right up your alley. It's absolutely fantastic. So big shout outs again to Anchorage Brewing Company for coming out with another stellar beer. And I know I have a couple other beers coming up in rotation for review soon, so keep an eye out for that. But other than that, that is what I have for you guys today. So again, thank you everybody in chat for hanging out. You guys are amazing. If you haven't yet, please hit that like button. It would help me out a lot. Also, if you're new to the channel and like what you see, make sure to hit that subscribe button as well, along with that notification bell. It'll let you know whenever I go live, do another review. I try to do reviews whenever I can, whenever I'm not working. So normally the days I have reviews going is the days I have off, so you can kind of get idea of what my schedule's kind of looking like. Mostly beginning of the week to the mid of the week is usually pretty busy, but towards the end of the week and all that stuff, I'm able to get reviews pumping out for you guys. So other than that, yeah, you can follow me on all my other kind of social media platforms when it comes to wherever you can see me. Of course, you got Instagram, where you'll see all my kind of daily what I'm doing over at the brewery, and then you'll see what I'm beer reviewing that day. So it's just, if you want to shoot me a follow on there, you can kind of keep yourself up to date on what I'm beer reviewing that day. And most likely, I usually do post whenever I can when it comes to stuff at the brewery or different new things that are happening over there. But you could also shoot me a friend request on Untappd. Of course, you guys hear me talk about Untappd all the time. It's a fantastic platform when it comes to craft beer. You could, I like to call it Facebook for beer drinkers. You could check in beers, get badges, all that kind of stuff. It's a really, really fun time over there. Plus, you could see people like me, Wintucky, Face Meat, Ian's on there. I don't know if Ian Covenant's on there yet. I don't know if I've seen him. But, yeah, Untappd is a really, really fun platform. So if you're not on there yet, make yourself a point to go over there and create an account, and then shoot me a friend request. Link to my profile is down in the description below. But last but not least, if you want to help support me by helping me get some little bit of coin in my pocket, plus help me get the opportunity to give back to you guys a little bit more when it comes to getting more reviews out there, and then just kind of helping you guys out to get some stuff that you normally can't get your hands on, I do have a Patreon available. If anybody wants to join in that, I do monthly craft beer giveaways. When it comes to Illinois exclusive craft beer, I'm going to be kind of getting some beer together with him like this weekend to kind of get ready for this month's kind of post, to give everybody a little bit of update on what's going to be available in this month's giveaway, so what you have the opportunity to win. So if you want to join my Patreon, that definitely is available as well. It would help me out gratefully, so I would not be against anybody doing it here. But other than that, that is what I have for you guys today. So again, thank you everybody, chat, for hanging out. You guys are amazing. Thank you everybody who's going to be tuning in on the replay. You guys are awesome as well. And I'm going to end this like I always do before we get the hell out of here. If you're going to drink responsibly. Don't drink and drive. And I'll see y'all next time. Cheers.